So we will have time for 30-second opening statements from everyone. And again, these are in random order. First up, we will have Ana Caballero for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be here with you tonight. 30 seconds is really short, so let me hit the highlights. Had a business here in San Benito County in Hollister for 25 years, and we had an office right down here on the corner of Monterey and 6th for 20 years. My public service was serving in the Salinas City Council for 15 years and as your assembly member for 4 years. And most recently, I worked with Governor Brown as a cabinet member serving business, consumer services, and housing agency secretary. Now I'm working as a consultant, doing workshops for small businesses to help them comply with ADA rules so that they don't get sued.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up, we have John Nevill.
Good evening. I bring you greetings from King City. I came up the back way, Highway 25, and I want to make sure I invite you all to the King City Fair, which is the Salinas Valley Fair, and you'll be able to see the best of the best. One of the reasons I'm running for this assembly seat is I live in King City, and I know that in Hollister, you feel like you're very far removed from the heat of the battle. I have been working and living in the area, providing public service for approximately 30 years, recently retired, and I feel that this is a good opportunity for me to do a good job for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Georgia Acosta.
Good evening. My name is Georgia Acosta, and I am a lifelong resident of this district. And my husband's and my family roots go way back through our grandparents and before in the ag industry. And my husband and I continue today to work in the ag industry. I have held appointments at the state level as a state director and a regional rep for CAR, where in my committee work with them. I advocated and worked towards property owners' land and water rights and taxpayer representation, and I've served in our local school board for Pajaro Valley Unified School District in Watsonville on one of their charter schools. So I have an extensive understanding in the needs of agriculture and education.
Thank you. And our final opening statement will be with Karina Cervantez-Alejo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. My name is Karina Cervantez-Alejo. I'm currently the Vice Mayor for the City of Watsonville, also a university lecturer at Cal State Monterey Bay, and running for State Assembly because I do think it's critically important to continue fighting for full access to our colleges and universities for our California students. Also critically important to make sure that we're attracting good jobs to our region. Also investments in our water infrastructure to ensure that we can meet our long-term water needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we will have time for 2 questions for each candidate. They're also randomized, and they can be from 1 to 2 minutes. Sorry. The first question will be for Karina Cervantez-Alejo. What do you see as the most important issues San Benito County is facing, and how do you plan to address them?
Sure. So I'll address this in terms of what I perceive to also be very important for us to address throughout the state. Definitely jobs and economic development is critically important. At the state level, we're able to advocate for tools for local cities to be able to reinvest in blighted areas in our community. We also need to address issues around transportation and infrastructure. And I know that all of you are working towards receiving and getting more local dollars here so that you can invest back into your local roads and highways. At the state level, we need to support these local efforts to make sure that the $59 billion backlog that we have at the state, that we're making sure that we address that. One possible solution to doing that is to ensure that we redirect $1 billion in truck weight fees that we shifted over to the general fund during our economic recession. We need to be sure that now that we're in a healthier financial situation as a state, we return those monies to the proper transportation fund so we can assist our local communities, our counties, our cities to be able to make the necessary investments in those transportation projects that have been long neglected and impact our economic and social welfare opportunities as communities. I also think as part of this effort, we also need to address our affordable housing. It's part of our economic development, ensuring that people are able to live where they work, and that we have a full range of housing options available so that all income levels can achieve the American dream of owning their own home.
Thank you. And now we will ask the same question to Ana Caballero. What do you see as the most important issues San Benito County is facing, and how do you plan to address them?
The three issues that I would say are water, affordable housing, and transportation. On the issue of water, San Benito County is part of a system, a water system that receives water from the Delta. And what's important about that is that 2/3 of California relies on Delta water, and unfortunately, the Delta is in grave danger of not being able to supply water to those 24 million Californians that rely on it. When I was in the legislature, I was a co-author with a Republican senator, Dave Cogdill, and we worked very hard to craft a bond measure, which was ultimately passed by the legislature, signed by the governor, and was reduced in size and put before the voters. We're going to need to go back and rethink that because the bond is not big enough. We need water for storage, we need water for conservation, and we also need water to put in the infrastructure in place so we can move water all over the state efficiently and do it in a way to make sure that every community has the water that they need. It's critically important, and it's critically important here in San Benito County. Regarding transportation, we have transportation funds that are projects that have been identified for improvement, and funding those is going to be very, very important. And in particular, it's Highway 25 and 156. And so we need to make sure that those are at the top of the list to start building them, quite frankly. And then in terms of affordable housing, I'm working very diligently on a plan to repurpose underperforming properties that are not bringing in the revenue to the city and property taxes that they need to. And they're the old strip malls, the ones that don't function anymore because of the big box. If we repurpose those and create an opportunity for us to develop them quickly, time is of the essence, then we can make sure we're protecting the environment and building the affordable housing that we need.
Thank you. Next, the question will be for Georgia Acosta. What do you see as the most important issues San Benito County is facing, and how do you plan to address them?
Well, as a small agriculture business owner myself, and having gone through the hardships of being a small business owner and in the ag industry, we are so heavily overregulated by the state of California, and it is so hard to be a profitable business in this area. That is one area that we need to see less regulation, more support for more local business, particularly the ag industry. That is the backbone of 80/30, as well as the state of California. Education, we need to help support our educational system and entrust our local elected officials to our local school boards, to the local classroom teachers of what's going on inside the classroom and what the needs are of our students in these classrooms. We also need to bridge the gap between school and home and provide services through support with nonprofits. I've worked at the state level with a statewide nonprofit and in the county of Monterey with a nonprofit, and that's really a key essence to help bridge that gap, is to bring in more nonprofits that can help bridge the gap for our students between school and home.
Okay, thank you. And the same question for John Nevill. What do you see as the most important issues San Benito County is facing, and how do you plan to address them?
Thank you. San Benito County is unique because most of your population is in the northern part. But like Ms. Lucius mentioned, the Pinnacles is a wonderful element that everybody has the opportunity to visit. Recently, I've noticed that you have 2 tour buses that are going down there on a regular basis. About 3 weeks ago, they had a 100-year anniversary celebration out there, and we brought a lot of media's attention to it as well. When you think about building up that corridor, San Benito County is very frustrated on the small business end as well. I believe that that could go hand in hand as far as enabling and helping those business owners that are on the Highway 25 corridor, as well as coming through the town here on the opposite end. The second thing that's important to you all is your reservoir and water as well, and recreation. We have the same problem in in Monterey County with Lake San Antonio. We have a reservoir that we're now able to use, and it would be nice to be able to get out there and enjoy it. The last thing I'd like to mention that I know that is very concerning to the government structure here in San Benito County is transparency. My last job was with the County of Monterey, working as an interim compliance officer, and we dealt with the ethical and moral aspects of working for counties with county public monies. And the key here is to have that transparency with our elected officials so that they understand that they are accountable and that we will know that their practices are the best benefit of our taxpayers' money. So one of those things that we keep in the back of our minds all the time is when we put these people in office, are they going to best serve you or are they going to best serve themselves? So that's one of my goals I'd like to see improved as well in this county as well as all 4 of our counties. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to question number 2. Again, you will have 2 minutes to answer the question. Our first question goes to Georgia Acosta. What will you do to help reduce the excessive bureaucracy that our business leaders feel strangles economic growth? How will you help establish more industry in our county?
Well, this goes back to, as I already said, we do need a stimulation of economic growth, and we cannot have that when we continue to have the burden of overregulation at the state level. We need to support businesses at the local level. We need to see more local control over that and less coming from Sacramento. So I would suggest that we need to look, help to focus not, through our local chambers as well and supporting them, and help to support local business people seeking to open a local business through local support.
Okay, thank you. Now we will go back to John Nevill. What will you do to help reduce the excessive bureaucracy that our business leaders feel strangles economic growth? How will you help establish more industry in our county?
One of the main things that hits the ag industry is that H-2A program. And one of the things that exists that's troublesome for the people that already have their permits and they're processing employees and trying to put people to work is that electronic screening. And there seems to be a concern between how the government at the federal level and how the government at the state level has oversight. So we need to find clarification about that. One of the other aspects about that legislation that's been tied up in the Senate and the Assembly for the last year. It's had like 6 different amendments. So we really need to look at that and get a handle on that. One of the other things that we are facing personally is the Measure P and the roads. If you have better roads, people would be feeling more inviting to come in. As you see a growth in your tourist industry, that's going to be a strangulation in some respects too, because a lot of people feel that the tourists will come through and they won't really spend any money. So we need to figure out a way to market that process and find out legislative monies that can build up that infrastructure. The other thing that we need to figure out going forward is public-private entity projects. We don't have any ability to continue our infrastructure as far as maintaining its level of existence. What I'm mentioning is the fact that we get seed money, we fund things, and then they start to dilapidate the minute we finish them. So with public funding and private funding in projects, we can find ways to get money to have continually funding for our infrastructure, and I think that would help your industry here in this county as well.
Thank you. Next, we will have the same question for Karina Cervantez-Alejo. What will you do to help reduce the excessive bureaucracy that our business leaders feel strangles economic growth? How will you help establish more industry in our county?
Going back to some of my earlier comments regarding transportation, I know there is no major throughway into San Benito County necessarily and here into the community of Hollister. And there have been proposals to address that issue, whether it's the improvements to Highway 156 or 25, or just ensuring that people do see this as a destination location. And so one of the ways that we can stimulate industry here is in those proper infrastructure investments and improvements. Another way that we also make those infrastructure improvements has a lot to do with attracting light manufacturing jobs, potentially tech hubs into our community as well, and making sure that we're making the proper investments in our broadband infrastructure as well, which also stimulates and supports a diversity of industries and economies coming into San Benito County. Getting back to a little bit about the transportation needs and making this a destination location, We recognize that there is a lot of investment here in organic farming practices, the largest being Earthbound Farms here. And so recognizing the possibility and potential of agritourism, also green jobs, much like the Panoche Valley Solar Project, that being also a possibility to attract good paying jobs into the region and the area. And that project was an example of extreme bureaucracy that the county had to navigate and negotiate with the state. And it becomes important at the state level as legislators that we take a very active role in making sure that we can streamline the process as much as possible so you can access the proper permitting that's often going through multiple agencies, and that you can access the necessary revenue to make the project a possibility and a reality in a community like San Benito County that has prioritized agritourism and green jobs as a significant part of their economy.
Thank you. Same question for Ana Caballero. What will you do to help reduce the excessive bureaucracy that our business leaders feel strangles economic growth, and how will you help establish more industry in our county?
So let me just start off by saying that one of the issues that came before me when I was in the legislature before was the issue of the courthouse. The court's administration was hell-bent on setting it out to the jail outside the city limits, and the challenge with that is that would have pulled a lot of the businesses that support the court outside of the city of Hollister. And so we work through the bureaucracy, and part of it is understanding how the bureaucracy works, asking the right questions, getting people together and having a conversation about the priorities, and then working through it. And we were able to, and I worked with the Downtown Association and the Chamber in order to be able to make sure that we put it here right where it is right now. And I think it's a beautiful building, and it's a great tribute to the city. But that involves listening, and it involves working with people. And what I challenge the business community to do is to articulate what are the issues that you're most concerned about. And I listen very carefully, and I've been able to break through a lot of the bureaucracy in the state, both in my position working for the governor, but also as a legislator. And frankly, what I'm really concerned about is the overregulation that creates one agency saying you've got to do X, and then the other agency saying if you do X, then you're in violation of our rules. And I want to be able to simplify that and get rid of some of that, and I know how to do it. So I look forward to working. I had office hours here, I had an office here, and I met regularly with the city council and the board of supervisors, and I look forward to working with the board as they rethink how they want the county to grow, because I think there's some new energy there, and I'm excited about it.
Okay, thank you. And now we will have time for 2-minute closing statements from all of you, and we will start with Ana Caballero.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for organizing this forum. I always enjoy coming here and participating. It's always, I can't say a thrill because it's nerve-wracking, but it's always great to be here. As I said before, I had a business here, and the reason I had a business here is because San Benito County was important to me. And I was here every week, and I took the 25 route to King City on a regular basis, and so I have had an opportunity to visit all parts of San Benito County, and I love it. I am running for the seat because we have some very, very serious issues that need to be addressed. And the bottom line is I've had an opportunity to sit with the governor and to learn how he thinks as much as anybody can learn how the governor thinks. And I want to be able to represent this area during the last 2 years of his administration, because he is focused on getting things done. And it's a great time to be able to sit with a governor who's interested in getting things done. I am interested in water. I'm interested in education. That's critical to our local economy. We are not producing the number of BA degrees that we need in our state in order to meet our future needs. Instead, we're importing people from other states and other countries, and we ought to be preparing our children to lead our state and to lead the country, quite frankly. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity. I have a lot of energy, I have a lot of experience, and I've had tremendous support from San Benito County in the past. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for prioritizing this election, and thank you for your consideration as well, very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Georgia Acosta for your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming out tonight. I'm sure you're going to hear that over and over, but it is appreciative to see people coming out and being vested and caring and interested. As I said, we have some serious issues in this district that have really gone underserved for the last 16 years. California's just ranked 45 in the nation for our educational system. The 80-30 district has 22 school districts, 93 schools that have been identified as low performing in the state of California. We have seen the success in Watsonville through public charter schools, how that has complemented and enhanced our local public school system and our local community. That is a good avenue to help with the educational system. As far as the ag industry, again, as we all, I think, all know in this room, it is a heavily overregulated industry that needs to have that reduced. We need to have some more local control that could support our growers, our farmers, and our ranchers, and not be tying their hands behind their back from being able to be profitable. We need to make sure that they can employ their personnel legally, and we need to help them with the water issues. It's been said over and over, and I think that there's plenty of agreement that over 60% of Californians are saying we need more water storage, and they're in support of that. We need to look at that as a serious issue and start addressing it instead of just talking about it. The infrastructure of our roadways is just continually getting hit. We have another $754 million that's going to be pulled from that, and it's getting put back on local communities and local counties to figure it out. We need to figure out our roadway infrastructure to support the infrastructure we have grown in all these past decades. Thank you again. My name is Georgia Acosta.
Thank you. Next, we have Karina Cervantez-Alejo with your closing statement.
Yes, I also wanted to thank everyone for being here this evening. I did get my start in public service working on local voter registration and education efforts, and so I really value civic engagement and participation in our political process. And I also wanted to thank, of course, the San Benito County Farm Bureau, as well as San BenitoLink, for this wonderful opportunity to be able to discuss the important issues and challenges facing us as a local community, local district, but also how we fit in relationship to the entire state. I wanted to, of course, underscore the importance and significance of agriculture to our region. I myself have a personal connection to agriculture. My mother is, and my mother and father both work as farm workers, farm laborers. And I always say they only had the opportunity to go up to the 6th grade each individually. And here I am about to finish my PhD, have the opportunity to be able to work at Cal State Monterey Bay and be able to make critical investments both in the classroom and now being able to serve up in the state legislature to continue to make even greater investments to make sure that our CSUs, our UCs, our community colleges are in fact accessible and affordable to our students graduating from California schools. Water, of course, continues to be on everybody's minds. We do need to make sure that we draw down the necessary resources. Proposition 1 was passed by the voters. We have to make sure that those dollars get into our communities and make sure that we're able to make the necessary investments in advanced recycling projects and also potentially investing in safe desal practices, because we do need to consider all of our options to make sure that we're responding adequately to the drought that continues to affect us and affect the ag industry. I also do think, again, jobs and economic development, we have a lot of promise and potential in San Benito County, and it's important that as the state level, we're ensuring the proper resources reach our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last, sorry, and our last closing statement will be by John Nevill.
Thank you all. Garth Brooks wrote a country western song. He said, "Thank God for unanswered prayers." I'm a vocationally trained respiratory therapist, and I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and the director here at Hazel Hawkins Hospital was a fellow Iowa boy, and he conned me into coming here because I really wanted to go to San Diego. So that being said, I really enjoyed having my first job here in Hollister, and it was actually the first place I voted as an adult. After I left here, approximately 3 years later, I worked in hospital administration, and basically the last 30 years, that has been my life. And I believe that there's only two people here on this stage that might have the ability to persist in county and state legislative government, because there's a huge learning curve. And you get into this thing and you want to survive, and you end up playing this day-to-day feeling that you're not accomplishing what the will of the people sent you there to do. So recently retired after having about 2 years working on my sheep ranch. I'm kind of ready to get back into this. And as mentioned earlier, we don't have participation at this level anymore. You folks came out tonight. I appreciate you being here, and I plan on working hard for you in the future. My name again is John Nevill. That's N-E-V as in Victor, I-L-L. We have a website. It's Nevill4assembly.com. It'll give you a little bit of information about me personally, but recently you can review the Freelance. They did a wonderful article a couple weeks ago, I believe about a week ago. And it'll give you a good idea of all of our platforms and where we stand, and I encourage you to do the research. And my motto for this election is please just vote, and remember it does count, so please get out there and vote this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Again, I would like to remind you all that we will have an event at the vault following this, and if you would like to stick around and talk to our guest audience, it would be really helpful.